So I think this is quite an old news at this point, but I think in late February, an Anthropic accused some Chinese AI companies of conducting industrial scale distillation attacks on cloud. So you must have heard of this news before, right?
Okay, I think so. I might have, but I'm not aware of the details of that.
Okay, so it includes three of the Chinese labs, DeepSeek, Minimax, and Moonshot AI. And so yeah, this news or
Okay.
this headline made me curious about what distillation really is. So in simple terms, distillation is the process of transferring the intelligence from a larger, more complex model, and this model is called the teacher model, to a smaller, simpler, and more faster model. So this model would be called the student. So of course there is a lot of mathematics and statistics, etc., behind the core logic and algorithm of the distillation methods, but I just wanted to understand it from a higher level. So also, in order to understand this, we can use the different existing training methods and maybe compare how each of them sort of work at the higher level. So for example, you will have the regular training. So this is the training that is used to train the foundation models from scratch to build their own weights and biases. So in this case, the teacher is the raw data that is fed to the model, and the student, or the goal of the student, is to discover patterns in the data on its own. So using whatever architecture or algorithm is there. Second system kind of training you have is the fine tuning, where the teacher is a very specialized form of data. For example, data only pertaining to the law, field of law. And the goal of the student here is to become an expert in that particular niche. And then we have distillation, where the teacher is an already existing model, and the goal of the student is to understand or copy the steps that the teacher model has already taken to reach the conclusion without having it the architecture itself. So it in a way mimics whatever the teacher is going to say. So we can use another real life analogy to maybe understand this even better. So for example, there is a chef and he has access to a book of recipes, just a textual book of recipes. And it is entirely the job of the chef to learn the process of cooking, which includes like knife skills, his precision, hand movement, etc., on his own. So by practicing over time, he has learned the patterns by trial and error. So this is similar to the regular training that foundation models go through. And fine tuning would be if he focuses on becoming an expert in a particular cuisine, say Indian or something. And then suppose there's a new junior chef coming in, and the junior chef watches and observes the master chef cooking. So just by watching the chef working, the junior chef has picked up the nuances of the master chef, like his hand movements, how he controls the knife, etc., etc. So he becomes maybe like close to 90% of the master chef just by watching the master chef work without having to go through the entire trial and error process himself. So that is the what is called distillation. And so one of the legitimate use case of distillation is that an AI model company can train a large complex model once and then use distillation to create their own smaller models that can be used for like edge cases, like in edge devices, or smaller models for different scenarios, or whatever the case may be. So this is the method that the Chinese AI labs seems to have used on Claude. So they created thousands of user accounts, then created millions of queries that were sent to Claude. Then they used distillation to basically re-engineer, or what is it called? I think it is called re-engineer,
Reverse engineer.
reverse engineer. Yes, reverse engineer
Yes.
how Claude might have been giving the answers. So basically, they will when these models will be given an input, they will also give similar answers as Claude would give. So at a higher level, that has been my understanding. But there's like two simple videos I found on YouTube. Maybe you can just watch it now and see what it has to say regarding distillation.
Okay. So,
I'll start this.
okay.
Hello, how you doing? Have you heard the term LLM distillation? And you're not quite sure you know exactly what this is? Well, if so, then watch along with me for the next few minutes, and I'll quickly get you up to speed. Okay, let's get started. So what is LLM distillation? LLM distillation refers to the process of transferring knowledge from a larger, often more complex model, referred to as the teacher, to a smaller, more efficient model referred to as the student. When we talk about larger and smaller models, how are we measuring this? Well, we are measuring model size in terms of parameters. The concept of knowledge distillation was first introduced by Geoffrey Hinton, Oriol Vinyals, and Jeff Dean in their paper titled Distilling the Knowledge in a Neural Network, presented in 2015. So what is the goal of distillation? Well, the goal is to maintain the smaller model's performance as close as possible to the teacher model, while significantly reducing the computational resources required for inference and deployment. So how does it work? Well, train a smaller student model using knowledge from a teacher model involves several key steps. First, the teacher model generates soft labels. Now, what are soft labels? Well, instead of just giving correct answers, the teacher model outputs the probability distributions over possible answers. For example, instead of just saying Apple blank, the teacher might say Apple iPhone with 90% probability, iPad with 5% probability, TV with 3% probability, or laptop with 2% probability. These soft labels help the student model understand confidence levels rather than just right and wrong answers. In addition to training with soft labels, the student model learns from the ground truth as well. Both of these help the student model capture the reasoning patterns of the teacher rather than just memorizing correct answers. Once the student model learns from the teacher model, it can be fine-tuned further on task-specific datasets. This helps ensure the student model performs well in real-world applications, even if it's much smaller than the teacher. So why use LLM distillation? Well, one big reason is efficiency. Smaller LLMs require less computational power, making them suitable for edge devices or low latency applications. And with better efficiency, you get cost savings. Reduced resource consumption leads to lower inference and operational costs. Additionally, with more efficiency, you can scale up to more user tasks with less need for massive infrastructure. So what are the challenges of LLM distillation? Well, the first is loss of information. A smaller model might not fully capture the nuances of the larger teacher model. The second is ensuring the distilled model generalizes well across diverse tasks or domains. So where would you use distilled models? Well, as I mentioned earlier, you can deploy distilled models on mobile devices or edge devices. Additionally, you can deploy distilled LLMs for tasks requiring low latency, such as real-time translation or summarization. So what are some examples of distilled models out in the real world? Well, the first is DistillBERT, which was distilled from BERT developed by Google. DistillBERT boasts being 40% smaller, 60% faster, and still retains 97% of BERT's performance. Another distilled model is Distilled GPT-2, which was distilled from GPT-2 developed by OpenAI. Distilled GPT-2 is between 35 and 40% smaller, 1.5x faster, and still retains between 95 to 97% of GPT-2's performance. So in summary, LLM distillation will be popular because it significantly reduces compute costs, speeds up inference, and enables real-time AI on mobile, edge, and cloud environments while retaining most of the accuracy of large models. As AI adoption scales, businesses and developers will prioritize efficient, affordable, and scalable models to power applications without the need for massive infrastructure. Okay, thanks for watching.
So actually, there's one more on distillation attacks. Maybe we'll watch this and then we can discuss.
Okay.
Hello, how you doing? Have you heard the term LLM distillation attack and you're not quite sure you know exactly what this is? Well, if so, then watch along with me for the next few minutes and I will quickly get you up to speed. Okay, let's get started. So there's a saying, no LLM is safe if it can be prompted. What does this actually mean? Well, let me explain. LLM distillation attacks, also known as model extraction attacks, involve extracting knowledge from an LLM by extensively querying it through prompts. These attacks exploit the model's responses to approximate a similar model, potentially compromising proprietary information and intellectual property. In simple terms, LLM distillation attacks are like copying a model's brain by asking a lot of questions and using the answers to build a less capable but similar brain. So how does a model extraction attack work, and how is it a form of distillation? Well, these attacks work by sending numerous queries to an LLM and using both the input and output pairs as training data for another LLM. This process is a form of distillation where the attacker distills the knowledge from the original model into the new unauthorized model. Simply put, it's like taking a model's knowledge and squeezing it into a new model without the original creator's consent. So how are the distillation results actually used by the attacker? Well, after obtaining the input-output responses, the attacker can use this data to train a new model from scratch or fine-tune a pre-trained model. Typically, they'll use a pre-trained model and fine-tune it using these question-answer distilled results. So how capable is the new model compared to the extracted model? Well, the more question-answer pairs obtained and the more compute available for training will directly determine how good the new model will perform. So if you're an LLM provider, why should you care about these kind of attacks? Well, these attacks can lead to unauthorized access to sensitive data, posing significant security risks. These attacks can undermine the competitive advantage of the providers that invest heavily in developing these new AI models. Essentially, if someone can copy your model, they can steal your hard work and use it for their benefit without your permission. So can LLM providers protect themselves? Well, providers can't completely stop these attacks, but they can slow the attackers down by detecting them early and making stealing more expensive than just paying for it. So really, providers can eliminate being attacked, but they can raise the cost to reduce the fidelity of the attack. It's really more of an economic security game versus a purely technical one. So what are some ways of slowing the attackers down? The first area involves API controls, such as rate limiting and quota tiers and pricing. The second is identity and verification. This involves linking accounts to real-world entities, so mass extraction with throwaway accounts is more difficult. Another category of approaches to slow attacks down involve query and usage monitoring. Here, suspicious query detection involves looking for extraction queries that look synthetic, diverse, or cover rare knowledge domains unnaturally evenly. If a client systematically queries across unrelated domains such as math, trivia, law, coding, medicine, etc., it suggests data harvesting rather than normal use. Whenever any of these patterns are detected, providers can further throttle these requests or even suspend the account. Additionally, providers can put in place output restrictions. Examples here include limiting the extraction of full probability distributions. Instead, providers can only return top K tokens or text completions. Additionally, smaller context windows can be configured. The idea here is restricting context length forces more queries to extract the same knowledge, making it more difficult for the attacker. In summary, providers can implement mitigation strategies to make it harder to query the LLM at scale, which is a requirement for high fidelity distillation. This in turn makes this attack approach more expensive than just licensing the model legitimately. In short, going back to the original saying earlier in the video, the simple act of an LM answering prompts inherently exposes knowledge. That's why the saying goes, no LM is safe if they can be prompted. So let me know what you think of LM distillation attacks.
So is all that then do you have anything to add here?
Okay. Okay, so maybe there are two ways to look at it. One is the technical part, and the other is the economical and the business side of it. So for my business side of it, one thing that can be said is that if the Chinese are actually doing this, that means Claude or Anthropic's models are actually superior as compared to the Chinese, whatever, even though they claim to be open source. So maybe in terms of access, they are open source, but in terms of the talent required to develop those things, they do not have the talent as compared to Anthropic. And which companies did you say? Did that also include DeepSeek?
Yes, DeepSeek, Moonshot, and Minimax.
Okay, so all
And I
three
think
of
this
them
was an
have that.
allegation, so
So
I don't know how much of it is true, but most likely it is true.
okay, okay, so okay, assuming that that is true, then yeah, from an I'd say economic and a talent business, and even from the talent perspective to develop those kind of things, the Chinese do not have them, so they had to resort to these kind of things. And from an engineering perspective, I got to know those kind of things. Like, so actually, in some ways, it is efficient, as they've mentioned. Like, the distill model is 30% smaller than the original one, but the efficiency drops by only 3% because it says that it's about 97% of the original model, the capabilities.
Mm.
So in a lot of use cases, it is efficient. So yeah, technically that's good. And what else? Okay, so
Yeah, so then
that's all.
yeah, then I will add some points or like the opinions I've found online that people have of this story.
Okay,
So
okay,
most, so like good amount of people are saying, and so since my source of this kind of opinion is Reddit, so most likely it is an echo chamber kind of opinions. Maybe people will prefer or lean towards this kind of view set on Reddit more than in other areas. But people here are calling Anthropic hypocritical and saying they're displaying double standard because Anthropic is basically complaining about their data being stolen or their model being stolen by these Chinese labs. But their foundation model was built by scraping all the data from the internet. And there are also even some legal cases against them for using pirated copies of different materials for training their models. So people see it as uh, hypocritical and they're displaying double standards because now they are complaining that their data is getting stolen when in fact they use the entirety of the internet to build their own foundation models. And they're also, like you mentioned about closed source model and open source model, people are also saying that Anthropic took the public data to build a completely closed source and heavily monetized model. Whereas this Chinese labs will be open sourcing these models to the entire public. So that is that. And one more criticism also is regarding the way they chose to. One of the ways the Anthropic chose to respond to this incident was that they call something called they're going to poison the output for malicious queries. So basically, if they detect a particular user query to be malicious, then they will give wrong information or something like that. So, to what
Okay.
degree can they guarantee that they will not identify a legitimate user as a malicious user? And those kind of questions come to place. And also in the video, the guy was explaining like what are the ways to mitigate this. So he talked about like API controls. What else? API controls and I don't recall all of it, but basically
Like if
all of the mitigation steps are how should I say it, are against the user. It makes the user's life difficult if the user has to go through that. So like rate limiting and stuff that he mentioned.
yes,
So basically, it is affecting the user experience in order for their LLMs to, because like he mentioned, if LLM can be prompted, then it can be uh, distilled towards. So there's no safe LLMs. So I think the reaction stems from the fact that they fear that they will lose their uniqueness or their, what is it called, unique selling point. So far, like people, for it is considered one of the advanced LLM models out there. So if by distilling, the comparators can clone like 97% or whatever the case may be of the performance and make it open source, then they lose the edge that they have. If, so that's why I think maybe this way is not the most, you can say it is not the ethical way of training or building a product. Some can even term it stealing. But if this AI companies, not just Anthropic, all the others included, in the name of advancement, they are not considering or do not care about scraping the entire internet for their model, and they do not did not care about the effects it might have, maybe like job displacements or whatever it may be. So they only cared about improving their product, or whatever happens because of it, they are least bothered about it. So they are not in no position to be giving ethical arguments at least. Maybe they can say technically we are superior, they are stealing from us or whatever, but they have no ethical ground here. It is fair game in my opinion, because they use the entire internet to, the data from the entire internet to fine tune their models. The Why can the Chinese labs cannot take their data? So that is overall my opinion. Do you have anything to say here?
yes. First, I'll talk about one of the pro. You said the steps that they took to mitigate those things. One of
Uh,
the things he said was that if someone, if from a single account, if the queries are made from for diverse subjects, like this is law, science, different things, that means it could be a kind of trying to extract knowledge. So that is very simple way to say it, because a single person might be querying different topics, and that's the whole point of AI. Like for a person who couldn't usually who couldn't study all those things, now they have the opportunity to use AI to learn about a wide range of topics. So if people are not going to use that, so what are they going to use? The things that they market, like booking a flight ticket, booking a hotel. That's the thing. Every demo what they show, that's the thing. How to book a ticket or how to book a holiday using AI. That's one of the easiest things to do.
mm,
I don't want an AI to book my flight tickets. That's one of the easiest things to do. You don't need those super data centers that like take a extraordinary amount of water to answer one query, and I'm wasting that water for what? To book a ticket. We don't want that. We want most people should be actually using it for knowledge to learn about different kinds of things, and that's what people will be doing. studying about diverse subjects. So if they mark some account that is studying different subjects as a kind of attack, that's not a very good thing to do. But anyways, I think
Yeah, but in that point, I
from
also
that point of
think
view,
that the limit is probably going to be quite high, maybe hundreds of thousands of queries from a single
yes,
point only then, because a single user actually typing and using it, it will never reach that point probably.
yes, yeah, that might be one of the things. Yes, so that was one point. And again, one additional point about that point itself. So I understand from their defensive perspective. So all the points that they have mentioned is like double-edged. Like a genuine user might also be doing all of those things that they have mentioned as being a potential kind of attack. So it's a balancing act. So they have to figure it out. Like you have said, like if the amount of queries is exponentially higher, which couldn't be done by a single human being
Mm.
manually. So that is understandable. So they have to figure it out. That's one thing. And the second thing is about the training that they've about the double standard issue. So even I agree those things, but again there are. So first of all, we should remove such concepts as ethics and morals from this kind of like situations, because those things are never real. Like what I've understood, so by being of this getting to this age, is that these are sort of like fairy tales. Like what I've experienced throughout my life is that every time I reach an age, I have some kind of light bulb or aha moments, like eureka moments, which made me think like the things that I thought about how the world works or how reality works was so childish. Like very early on, we have concepts like Santa Claus is real, and then I say no, it's not. Maybe mythologic. It's a mythological creator, or maybe in some past, in the past, Santa Claus might have been true, but the Santa Claus that came when I was a kid to Christmas wasn't the real Santa Claus. It was some uncle who dressed up as that was. So that was this. When you're old enough to realize that, you think like, okay, so that Santa Claus that gave me my gift was not the real one. It was just uncle. That is one. Some other was that another thing that I misunderstood was that I thought sun and star are different kind of things, because I remember like maybe in like nursery KG or first, when I was in first grade, we had to draw heavenly bodies. So you have to draw sun, star, and moon. So star was this, moon was easy, draw a circle in gray color. There is star was this kind of, you have to do this, and sun
Mm.
was again circle with yellow color. So I thought, okay, these are three different things. But after a few years, when I grew up, I realized that I learned that actually the sun is actually a star. All stars are actually sun. They're just far away. That's why they look different.
Mm.
Then it's a light bulb. What? Sun is also a star. All stars are sun. I thought
Mm.
they're two different things. So that's it entirely changes your understanding of the universe. Like we are nothing special. There are like trillions of same things. So whenever this kind of light things happens, your whole framework suddenly changes about how the world is, which world you live in. And there have been a few more down the line. But one thing that I okay. So what I was saying was that so there have been many more such down the line, but regarding this ethical and uh, morals, this another light bulb moment happened to me when I realized that this world, like this is our ideal. That is what we want to be as individuals and as societies. But that is a very big fantasy. The real world is like it's a harsh animal-like world. You have to kill to survive those kind of things. But we paint this image, and just because we wear these nice clothes, we live in this civilized world, all those kind of this this thing that we create. it is just a illusion. The world is a There's practically no difference between the animals living in the jungle fighting for survival and our lives. We are trying. Over the years, we are step by step getting better. That is what a fully formed civilized human beings, human society is trying to be. But that is a illusion, I would like to say.
Mhm.
And that is why all these companies have marketing and PR campaigns to portray themselves as doing something good, or like we are saving the environment, we are doing this and that. It is just to create this perception. But the real world is like it's a wild world. So they cannot do this. So what happened is that, okay, another example regarding this thing is that when they did it first, when Claude and ChatGPT also they definitely did it, because I remember when one of the executives of OpenAI was asked, like, did you train your models on OpenAI? He refused to comment. So if you refuse to comment, that means we all know what you're trying to say. Because they are so cheap, like if they didn't do it, they'll keep shouting it every time that yes, we
Mhm.
didn't do it, we didn't do it. But the fact that you are silent says that you did it, but you're not giving them the answer explicitly. So why they were able to do it is that whenever something new happens, there is no legal framework to deal with it. So they can do it. And technically that's not illegal either to an extent. Okay, that's not illegal because there is no law, then how can it be illegal? But then once you do it, you can now create a law and then make it illegal. So one thing that happens is that it happens in case of human like in terms of countries. Okay, you come to a new country, new place, you invade that place, and I think the Americans they talk about this all the time. They were Europeans. They came to America. They obliterated the Native Americans, and now they live there. But now, so they are immigrants. They are not the native people. But technically, that is not illegal because there is no law about what it is. Now they came, they captured America, they created law. And now if I go there without a visa or something, and I start to live there and I start working there, I'm illegal.
Mhm.
Why? Because now the law exists and I do not agree that I do not comply with the law. But they did exactly the same thing because since they did it first, there's no law against it. So okay, it's not illegal. So Anthropic did it, OpenAI did it. There is no law, so they cannot. No one can say that is illegal. But now, okay, now the legal framework has been the law people took notice of it. Now there are legal frameworks to it. Now the new people can't do this because now it's illegal. So this kind of things are always there. The first mover advantage in some evil way.
Mhm.
So they can do this. So that's what they have done. And now they're using this thing again. Now they're saying that okay, they definitely they cannot make the ethical argument like okay, you cannot Chinese people you can't take our model, but they can definitely make a legal claim that okay, this is illegal. We didn't. You can't tell us that we did it illegal because there is no law at in the first place. So
I don't
both
know
of them are
if
doing in terms of
yeah, continue.
what did you say something?
Look,
Okay, so in terms of ethical, I'm
I
okay.
was about to say that I don't know if there's still a clear law regarding this kind of attacks or not. It may still be considered like no, it's not maybe not illegal yet.
Okay, so that's the thing. Like if it's not illegal, so
Because if it
so
was
again,
illegal,
there
I
is
think
a
it will be
legal point
directly
of view and
a
a ethical point
lawsuit,
of view.
not such kind of
I think because of the internet connection, there is a lag. We are not be able to, we're not able
yeah,
to coordinate.
yeah.
Let me see. Let me change my connection a little bit.
There's only 4 minutes left, anyways.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, you can say, then I'll continue.
I forgot what I was about to say. Mm,
Well, whether it was legal or not.
yeah, that. But as you continue, maybe if I recall, I will say.
Okay. Yeah, so to summarize, my point was that in terms of there are broadly two ways to look about it, legally and illegally. Sorry, legally and ethically. So in terms of legally, we can definitely say that for the most part, whatever OpenAI and Anthropic did was cannot be said illegal. Maybe if there's old copyright things of like books and something, I think that can fall under some law. But websites, I don't know whether they're legal is are they legally
I
protected or
mean, I
not.
think they claim that it is
So
under fair use, so they are also legally saying it
uh,
is okay.
okay, so that is one thing, legal. So see, there's this thing about legal and ethical. So ethical is something you know deep inside what you're doing. So I think legal is the subset of ethical, like you are trying to like make a formal rule of the ethical thing. That's
Yeah.
the thing. Like we're going very philosophical out there, but that's what the thing is. The law, the whole system of law is like this ethical is something superior, but it cannot be like codified into very formal structure. So legal is what ethics, ethics being put in a formal structure. And so there is always loopholes because for ethic you do not have to go to court. Even you deep inside you know you're doing it right or wrong.
Mm,
But then again you cannot uh, like complain against it. I mean you cannot take actions against illegal unethical thing. But illegal thing you can do it. Uh, so this is becoming too philosophical, but I'll not go too much into this. Practically, uh, so this can be whatever OpenAI and Anthropic did can be said that it is legal to an extent. But I don't know how much legality is there in terms of distillation or not. So if there is, they might make a case that the Chinese companies are doing something illegal.
Oh yeah,
But in
the
terms of
point I remember what I was trying to say is that if this were
yeah,
actually illegal or recognized illegal, then it it directly would have been a lawsuit instead of this kind of marketing or this kind of approach. They would have taken the approach of direct lawsuit. So I
yes,
think it is not yet illegal.
yes. So I think so. The laws have not been there. So I think they are the victim of the same thing that happened. They did to someone else.
Yeah.
That's the truth. So now they're being hypocritic. So it is understandable. So in so either both what they have done, both the Chinese companies and from an ethical ethical point of view, either both of them are correct or both of them are wrong. So Anthropic cannot be hypocritic. So they should either they should say that okay,
It's about
we
to be
know
over.
that maybe okay. So that's the point, as I've said. So either
Mm.
both are ethical or both are unethical. You cannot be hypocritic. That's the whole point.
Okay, I also have nothing to conclude, so we can just stop, I think.
Okay, I can stop it.